Hello Kim, how are you today?
Well, thank you, Matt.
Have you had a good day?
Very much so.
Very much so, excellent. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to give you a little lesson on how to poach eggs. It's quite a simple skill to learn, but there's certain things you need to keep an eye out for when it comes to having a consistent product towards the end.
Sure.
So it's quite straightforward. I'll make it very clear and understandable for you. I'll give you plenty of visual cues and references so you can see the process and of course the outcome. This should take about half an hour, about 30 minutes. And the reason for this lesson is I've noticed that you've got some upcoming work breakfast meetings.
Yep.
And you wanted to provide a nice egg cooked breakfast for them all, but because there's a number of them, you wanted to learn how to poach eggs, but to be able to do multiple ones at a time, and to all have them sort of cooked in the same style, the same consistency. So that's what we're going to aim for today. Essentially, we are going to focus more on poaching a singular egg, so you can understand the process, the steps involved, the reasons for these things. And later on, you won't be tested on it, but I'll give you a demonstration of how to do the multiple eggs. But it still follows the same steps as if you were to poach a single egg. You have already got some experience around eggs and hospitality.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, you've got about 20 odd years
Yes.
hospitality. Yep.
I've seen a lot of eggs.
You've seen a lot of eggs, yeah, you've carried a few, I'm sure. And you've definitely eaten some eggs. Eat a lot of eggs. We also have our own eggs, our own pet eggs and stuff. So the good thing about eggs is they're very versatile, especially when it comes to cooking, being in the trade. Eggs and the protein from eggs is very sort of diverse in the applications you can do it. This one being a very simple way of cooking an egg, being a very healthy alternative because essentially we're just encapsulating the yolk in the whites and cooking the outside. So we covered those sorts of reasons why we're doing this, but we also need to sort of cover the safety aspects of poaching an egg. It might seem pretty straightforward when you just poach an egg, but unfortunately there's a few things you do need to consider. First of all is if we're working with hot water, and pretty close to boiling point the water we're working with, so we have to make sure that scalding burns can be a very real thing. So always make sure you have a source of running cold water nearby. So as we've got a tap over here with cold running water, which will be perfect for that. Same applies for like a hot contact burn. So if we were to touch the hot plate by accident, the pot even sometimes the utensils can come out of the water and they might be hot enough to cause a burn. So once again, that is also for the close enough tap to run your burn under. Regards of water again, but also general safety is appropriate footwear. So closed-toed shoes should always be in kitchens, and definitely a non-slip sole. So having a non-slip sole, because once again we're dealing with a fluid, and splashing is extremely common and almost expected sometimes. So we want to make sure that there's no reasons to slip over if there happens to be a spill. And another thing is to make sure that your area that you're working in, there's no trip hazards, so you don't have any boxes or things on the ground around you that you can trip over, because you might be handling a pot of water, and if you go to move, you trip over and you're wearing it, which is definitely not safe. When it comes to regards of safety with spills on the floor, as with the burns, how we have an accessible cold running tap,
Yeah.
with spills and stuff, we need to make sure that we have a way of cleaning it up pretty quickly. So if you happen to walk away, you know that you're not leaving a puddle on the floor and somebody else can walk along and have a
Yeah.
slip. So over here we have some extra paper towel
Yep.
for cleanups only. If you don't have one of them, I mean, you can use a mop.
Yep.
Have a mop handy, that's perfectly fine. Have a glove there. Now, when it comes to poaching eggs, you don't particularly need to wear gloves in most circumstances because you're not really handling the product too much, the cooked egg. But I do recommend having a glove on hand if you're like us, where if you have a chicken coop
Yep.
and you have eggs that are produced naturally in your backyard, and you're grabbing them straight from the nest boxes and then go to cook them, there is a high likelihood of salmonella and other sort of bacteria and stuff that'll be on the outside of the shell because of just the natural environment where the eggs come from. When you have bought eggs, so for today's demonstration, we're using some bought-in eggs. Now, the thing about bought eggs is they are actually sterilised. So they're given a wash and sterilised clean before they go into packaging. So we don't particularly need gloves for today's session, but like I said, if you were to do it at home and you had your own pet chickens, best either wash your eggs or use a glove when you crack the eggs so you're not cross-contaminating and putting yourself at risk of getting food poisoning or worse, you know, like E. coli is a thing too, you know, even if it's not human. But yes, so it's all about being, I guess, aware of the risks, and that one would be probably overlooked at times,
Yeah, I wouldn't think.
quite quickly.
Yeah. Never thought about that without eggs.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I must admit, I do either give them a wipe down, or if I do crack an egg, I'll wash my hands directly after.
Yeah.
So it's all about keeping that in mind.
Yeah.
But I think immediately the major concerns we have, especially regarding safety, is burning. And burning from hot water, scalds, and steam as well. So, you know, it's fine, you know, like everything's safe if you keep it in a safe, controlled space.
Yeah.
So, I also just covered the space. So once again, you know, like to have a good, clean work area. It looks a bit cluttered up this way. That's only because I've got the equipment and ingredients we need out for this particular task. But generally speaking, it's always good to have a nice, clean work area. Once again, no trip hazards down by the feet.
Yeah. And handles.
And handles, yes. So I've put them away.
Yeah.
That's also a very good practice to do, especially if they're long handles and you might be walking past a few times because you don't want to be catching with your clothes or your hip might knock them, and then you'll once again have a risk of burning yourself or getting a big spill on the floor, and other people could hurt themselves because of that. Alright, so let's go into explaining about the ingredients and equipment we have here. So starting up the back here, we've got two pots on. One's for me to do a demonstration. I've got one for you as well, so you can have a practice in your own pot. So we're not crowding over the one pot, but generally when you're on your own, you don't need multiple pots. You know, one pot's perfectly fine. I recommend a pot that's got tall sides. So this one, you can see it's quite tall. It's probably about 3 to 4 litres by looking at it. And I have it filled 3/4 of the way with hot water. So this one's a bit smaller, but the same principle applies. You know, it's a pot of water, and it's just sitting there. Over here, we have a slotted spoon. Now we have this slotted spoon. We use pretty much this to do most of the work with the egg. We shouldn't really need to touch the egg. There is one point where we do touch the egg a little bit, but it's not handling. So this is our main tool that we use. We have a temperature gun. And this will give me an idea of the temperature of the water when I drop the eggs in. A timer.
Cooking time.
Cooking time. A timer to set cooking time. I have a small bowl. This little bowl is to crack eggs into. So we're not going to crack them directly into the pot. We're going to crack them into a bowl first. once again, I said I had some extra wipe-up towels, a glove, but I also have a plate with more absorbent towel here. As you can see, I'm using the kitchen towel. Paper toweling is fine, but I definitely wouldn't use an old tea towel. You definitely make sure that you know that's a clean sanitary towel first. So I definitely opt for the kitchen safe blue towel. And as for the ingredients, it's quite simple. We've got the water, we have eggs. Now with the eggs, it's very important that the quality of egg is looked into. So I will always poach free-range eggs, and free-range eggs that are relatively fresh. So you want to try and get them as fresh as you can. There's many reasons for that, and I'll go into a bit more detail later when I'm going through the demonstration of it. But at this stage, definitely look for the freshest eggs you can find and free-range. And that's for quality and to guarantee that the poached egg will come out consistent and looking as best as it can. Older eggs don't seem to fare as well. We have some just table salt here and plain old white vinegar. So that's the ingredients mainly for poaching the egg. So how we're going to go about this demonstration and lesson is I'm going to in real time just cook an egg, do the steps as I would normally say if I was at work, and show you the sort of how the technique is used, the time frame it should take, the finished product. So once we sort of cover all that, like I'll just do it, and if you think of any questions, that's great, just sort of hold on to them. After I've sort of poached the egg, or even sort of towards the end of poaching the egg, because they could take a few minutes, I'll start explaining a bit more of the process. After that, I'm going to poach another egg. But when I poach the egg the second time, I'm going to break it down into very understandable steps. So I'll cover all the aspects of cracking the egg through to retrieving it out of the water when it's finished and all the steps involved. You can also partake, or if you have any questions or any sort of thoughts, that's a perfect time to bring it up as we're doing it. But after that, I'm going to get you to poach an egg. When you poach the egg, you can ask me the questions and I'll make sure that I'm keeping an eye on it. If I've got the time, I might even poach one more egg, or at that stage show you how I'll do multiple eggs at one time. But like I said, for demonstration purposes, I'm going to get you just to get comfortable with poaching a singular egg. Once you've done the egg on your own, and I've sort of helped you along, give you some guidance, if there's anything that I see that you've missed or a bit sort of stuck on, I'll sort of help you over those little hurdles and get you going forwards. And once you feel really comfortable and proficient with poaching the egg, I'll let you have a go all on your own. And I'll have a look and assess how you're going. And after that, if we're all happy, then you could probably go off and cook eggs for the whole neighbourhood.
I hope so.
You hope so?
Yeah.
All right. So how does that sound? Does that sound like
that's great.
Yeah, you like that as a
clear,
finish the editing?
Yeah.
That's 3 minutes for the timer. We're going to pull up the egg nice and gently using the slotted spoon. You look at it, it's got a nice jiggle. You give it a press. It's the only time I'm touching any eggs at this point, just to see how liquid it still is in the middle. That's kind of what you want. Once you've done that, pour the egg out onto a plate, let it drain for a bit, and then in about 30 seconds you can serve it hot, or alternatively you can put it in a pot of cold water. So, you've seen the first demonstration in real time and how I just did it. That would be industry expected.
Yep.
You know, if you're a chef and you're a brekkie chef and you're making eggs, or even fine dining restaurants use poached eggs, this is sort of the technique and the time frame you're looking for.
Yep.
So I'm going to poach another egg. I'll do it in real time again, but I can slow it down for every step and explain it further.
Yep.
If you wish, I can get you to poach an egg at the same time, just to see if you get a feel for it.
Yep.
Turn your water up a bit first. Okay, so the principles are, I have my water which is just below boiling point here. So that's why I have the thermometer. The thermometer I'm using to make sure that the water is at shimmering stage. So shimmering stage is around 85 to 90.
Yep.
So you're about 10 degrees off boiling. Now the principle for that is you want the outer part of the egg to cook as quick as it can as it's falling through the water. So that's the reason why we use a tall pot as well.
Yep.
So having a tall pot means the egg has a longer time to cook as it's falling to the bottom of the pot.
Yep.
If you were to try and cook in a fry pan or something flatter, it might still work, but you'll find your eggs might be more like a UFO shape,
Yeah.
more oval,
Yeah.
as opposed to sort of round. Also, what is important is the vinegar and the salt in your water. So the vinegar is, the acids help also set the outside, the whites, as it drops in there. And the salt also helps with the setting a little bit, but also it's seasoning. It sort of helps flavour the egg. So you can leave out the salt, and if the eggs are really, really good, really super fresh, you can actually try and poach without even the vinegar. Because if the eggs are super fresh, the egg will easily just sort of cook in there without separating. As I mentioned about quality of eggs is important. The quality of eggs is super important because the fresher they are, the thicker they are.
Yep.
The older they get, the whites become very watery. And once you have a watery egg, it's very hard to poach. So I advise against it always. I have this water going and I've already got the salt and the vinegar from the last egg.
Yep.
So if I can get you to put a big pinch of salt into your water. Yep. And about 50 mils of the vinegar. Just pour it straight in there. Get a second bowl, crack egg into it for yourself. There's your egg, nice and clean. If it wasn't, we'd be using gloves.
Yep.
Make sure our hands are clean. Now, never crack an egg on the edge of a bench, always do it on a flat surface.
Yep.
Once you have the break in the shell, you kind of get your fingertips in there and lever them away from each other over the bowl you're using.
Yep.
The reason why we're putting it straight into a bowl is because we get to see if the egg's okay.
Yep.
So the egg might be off, you might have got some shell in there.
Yep.
Sometimes the eggs have little sort of blood spots in them.
Yep.
So if you do this first, then you can actually see if the egg's viable to cook. Alright, so a few knocks to make sure you get the shell broken. Dig your thumbs in. Leave the shell apart, let the egg drop in there, try not to break the yolk. Get to that stage. That's it. Give it a good whack. There you go, beautiful.
Yeah.
Closer to the surface, there you go, so you don't drop the egg.
Yeah.
Perfect. Alright. So look at the egg, egg looks nice and clean, there's no foreign objects in there.
No.
We're very satisfied, that's good to go. Alright, so now we've got our water which has got the vinegar, the salt, it's pretty much up to temperature. We'll double check that. So we're going to sit there and say, yeah, pretty much exactly where we need to be. It's 88 degrees. Yep. So it's mine. Alright, now this is where we use the spoon. Now what we're doing is we're creating a whirlpool. You want the whirlpool to go as fast as you can without spilling. And the concept of this is when you drop the egg into the water, you drop it right into the centre of the pot. And as the egg falls down through the water, it's spinning. And that spinning makes the egg whites spin into itself and create more of a ball. If you were to drop it into some static water, the egg might become a bit sort of odd shaped and not great. So I'm going to get mine spinning. Get you to do the same. Just slowing down with the spin, dropping the egg as close to the surface, straight in the middle, and letting it just sit there and do its thing. Beautiful. Yep. Now pour your egg in right in the centre, close to the water. And see how it's moving around now? Yep. Now one little thing we can do as well, sometimes it can sort of stick in the bottom of the pot if the pot's not super deep. Because your one is a bit sort of shallower, it might, there might be a likelihood it could stick right in the centre.
Yep.
So what I do is I get my spoon and I just sort of give it a little nudge, just so it's loose from the bottom and it moves around with the water.
Yep.
Once you know it's moving around with the water, you can say the egg is definitely... And that's right, turn it down if it starts to boiling too fast.
Yep.
You want to make sure the water is shimmering, so not rolling boil, there's no boil to it. Start our timer for 3 minutes. And essentially we just watch it. Some gas stoves can get quite hot quite quickly, so it's also very important to keep an eye on the temperature. So if you walk away and it starts to boil rapidly, what can happen in that situation is the egg can fall apart. Because the water's too violent for it. So, and these are very fragile. Right at this stage, especially when we drop it in and we're just setting off the outside whites, getting those whites just to sort of congeal. Very delicate. So this is why once you drop the egg in, loosen off the bottom if needed. You have to just let it go and just let it do its thing. Sitting there, look very good. So how many eggs a week would you eat?
Oh, probably 8 to 10.
8 to 10?
Yeah.
So egg allergies is definitely not
No.
a problem.
No.
And I do think that people who have allergies, especially to eggs and egg proteins, will be very forefront with their ailments. So, but it's always good to check, especially if you're cooking for a group.
Yes.
You want to make sure that everyone understands that you're working with eggs, and if they have an allergy or a reaction to it, that maybe there could be an alternative egg product you could use. I can't imagine there'd be an egg you'd be able to poach that would be alternative, but there might be some sort of egg-free scramble mix you could use to help to provide them some breakfast where everyone else has the poached eggs. Alright, that's our 3 minutes up. Now, I'll grab mine out first. What I'm doing is I'm lifting it up. And every time I touch it now, I'm giving it a slight little poke just to feel. You kind of want it to feel like a water bottle. Sorry, like a water bowl. For the old water fight. And the spinning has given it a little tail. So I'll let you pull yours out, give it a assess, see how we're going. Now you can press where the yolk is too, so that gives you an idea of how cooked the yolk is. You want it liquid still. And the whites are nice and firm. Perfect. Alright, so while we've got our water going, everything's sort of happening, I think the temperatures are still pretty good. I think I will get you to do it one more time. I'll do it again as well, but I will do the multiple eggs. So I'll get you to do one egg and you get to do the multiple ones. So I'll get my little bowl, here's mine. Alright. So I'll do 2 at a time and you can just do the one. Can be, yeah. Whoa. And the thing is too with eggs, yeah, they can sometimes the egg shells can be very thin.
Yeah.
So another reason why it's beneficial to crack over a bowl as opposed to straight over the pot.
Yeah.
Because if the egg piece falls off and it sticks to the egg, and then all of a sudden you've got a big piece of shell cooked inside your egg.
Yeah.
So I'm going to quickly do my 2 eggs because I've got multiple. So I'm going to do 2 eggs in the same bowl. Haven't broken, which is great. Alright, now I'll let you drop yours first. Nice spin, nice. Okay, I'll take that. Yeah. Thank you. Close to the water, beautiful. Good movement with the water, nice, yep, spinning well. You do the same. Because I've got multiple eggs, same principle. I'm just going to drop both of them into the centre. Trying to get them to drop separately.
Yep.
Yours, yep. Beautiful. I just gave it a nudge so it was off the bottom. And my 2 look like they're moving around quite freely. Yep. Alright, now if you want to set the timer for us, press go. Beautiful. 3 minutes has started. Looks beautiful. So the beneficial things about these sort of electric and induction cooktops is they're pretty good at holding a consistent cooking temperature as well.
Yep.
Like I said earlier, gas can fluctuate a bit too.
Yep.
So you might have moments where it starts to gain too much heat and get away from you. So that's essentially so water temperature, quality eggs, probably the most main things you need to sort of keep in mind when it comes to poaching eggs. Oh, there we go. Alright, skip out the egg. Place it on the towel. Yeah, give it a set. Beautiful. Alright.
Okay.
You see, you've got some beautiful round eggs. Sometimes they can get a bit wonky, but that has got nothing to do with the actual cooking technique. That might have been mitigated a bit better if the pot was deeper.
Yeah. But
essentially, it's the quality of the egg.
Yeah.
So I'll just scoop mine out. Yep. Thank you. So I'm just going to couple there. All right. So I'm going to clean my water up. Now, was there any steps in that that I just showed you that you might have got a bit confused about or a bit unsure of?
No, it's very clear. Very clear.
Beautiful. Alright.
Yeah.
So what I might do too, I'll get a fresh plate with some fresh paper and more room for an egg. We can do the testing. Alright, so next up is you get to cook your own egg. And I'll let you go for it on your own.
Okay.
I trust you so much, I'm even turning my water off.
We'll see how we go.
Okay, my water's off. Get your towel ready. Bowl for you. And your scooper. Alright, go for it. That's okay.
That's a mess.
Right, now if you hold it close to the, there you go. So, and even if you did break an egg, it doesn't really matter, you know, the old saying, you got to crack a few eggs to make an omelette. So maybe someone will have an omelette instead of a crushed egg.
Yes.
saw how it was starting to sort of catch a little. You need it to be moving around. Yep. Sit there and let the egg float around.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's 3 minutes. Alright, so let's scoop the egg out. Yep. It's nice and over. Give it a flip over. Wash off. So,
Is that full of water?
It is. So what you can do is you can flip it over.
Oh.
What you'll find, yeah, it happens. Sometimes they encapsulate some of the water. So if you put it on the towel,
Yeah.
you'll see that it might burst its bubble, literally.
Oh.
Oh,
Woo!
yep. It's okay.
Ah.
Yeah, so that was nothing you did wrong.
Yeah.
Sometimes it encases into the water.
Yeah.
So let's just do one more.
Okay.
Actually, I've got an egg here that's already cracked.
Yeah.
Just give us the bowl for a sec so we can slip it in. There we go. So get your water rolling, drop the egg in. Now when the eggs don't work out like that, that's not an end of the world either.
Yeah.
You can either cook them further or you can turn them into like a dressing. You can
Oh, yeah.
chop it up and make like a cottled egg dressing, like the original sort of egg dressing that you put in a Caesar salad. for
Oh,
instance.
yeah. Tip that water out so we can.
And the reason why we have the paper on the plate is to capture all that water, because sometimes you'll see
Yeah.
the eggs will loosen the bottom. Alright, yep, it's been cooking really well. We're pretty close to finish now. Yep. Alright, that's 30 minutes, 30 seconds, sorry. 3 minutes.
30-minute egg.
Alright, pull out the egg, we'll have a little poke. Oh, beautiful. See, that one's worked out just fine.
Ah, yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Alright. So, you've poached eggs now. You've seen the steps in the process. You've learnt about the safety, of course, you know. And do you think that you'd maintain this skill? Is it something that
Yes.
you'll do quite often?
Yes.
Do you feel confident about cooking the eggs, multiple eggs at a time, or even pre-preparing the eggs
Yep.
and cooling them off?
Yes.
Yep.
That's very handy.
Very handy, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Was there any sort of safety points that I mentioned that you would like to
No.
touch over?
It's very clear.
Is there any sort of what safety precautions should you look out for?
I like the handles turned around. That's really
Safety,
stuck
yeah.
a chord with me. So yeah, keeping the handles turned around so
away.
we can't bump into them.
Yep. And
Making sure there's a running cold tap
Yep.
nearby for burns.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, and wearing safe footwear in case you drop anything.
Yep.
So your feet are covered by shoes.
That's awesome. Alright. Well, thank you. Thanks for being a part of this lesson.
Thanks for showing me.
That's
I
all right.
finally know how to poach eggs
Actually,
properly.
well, I'm sure you had an idea, but
Oh, no, it's
going forward
step by
now,
step,
yeah,
but-
step by step to break it down, to make sure that you understand what we're looking for.
Yeah,
I guess the structural changes of the egg as it's
Yeah.
cooking.
and the deeper pot.
Deeper pots.
Yeah.
Like I said, it is still you can still do it in shallower pots.
Yeah.
I find it just a little bit more tricky.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, you know, like if the eggs are old, you know, and they're a bit thin, sometimes it's better to not try and poach them at all.
Yeah, yeah.
You can lose, to get 2 poached eggs that look nice out of an old carton of eggs, you might waste 10 of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
do
important.
something else with them. Yeah.
Exactly, yep.
Yeah. Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.